Hello, welcome everybody to Talking Crap Season 1, Episode 12. I keep forgetting the name of the episode because I make it up ahead of time and I keep forgetting. So just check the thumbnail and then you'll know what the episode is. My name is Jay. You can catch me on social media at Casino Dealer Jay. And my co-host, as always, is...
Hi, my name's John. I put the fun in dysfunctional.
I like that.
And our special guest today is...
Hi, it's me. It's Mike. I'm back. How's it going?
Welcome, Mike. It's nice to have you back.
I zoomed in. I need to. It's winter. I need my tan back. It needs to be summer again.
Yeah, was there even summer here? I can't even remember. It's been a great year.
Like,
yeah. So before we move on, Mike, obviously there's this fan question for you. Did you ever accidentally lock the casino safe combination in the actual safe?
One time, and I completely forgot about it until Loretta brought it up on the broadcast, and I remember them calling me in the morning, and I was tired. I worked. I got home at about 4:30 in the morning. I was sleeping. They called, and I looked for it in my suit pocket. It wasn't there. I'm like, I'm going back to bed. So you guys can figure it out. That was it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more to that story, but we'll leave it at that. I'll always keep asking you that question every time you're on, Mike. So
it was Yellowhead, right? I know it was Yellowhead. So it was, yeah.
All right. So you can catch us all on the social media. We all have accounts. Right now we're streaming on 3 platforms. My Facebook, so hello family. The Casino Industry Canada group. So hello, welcome everybody across Canada. Thank you for joining that group. And the Casino Dealer J YouTube channel. So hello to all the subscribers out there. All right, so for episode 12, John, did you want to start with the questions?
So Jay and I were talking, and it just kind of like a lot of these things just come up off the cuff and just really spontaneous. And one of the questions like we kind of thought would be interesting to talk about was, if you could have dealt in any decade, which decade would you have liked to have dealt in? So I dealt I started in '86 and I left in 2005. So I dealt for about 19 years. So mid '80s and '90s, and sort of left then. So I'd be kind of interested to hear okay, you guys as well, and anybody who's listening, watching, if you could have been a dealer, when would you have liked to have been a dealer, if not the time you were there?
Mm-hmm. Mike, why don't you go first here? The way that John's question is actually better, but the way that I worded it was, if you were in your prime, so you weren't dealing now after the fact, but your hands were the best that they were, and you have the energy to do triples. Mike, I remember you doing a triple shift once. That was nothing for you. But would you want to break in at the time that you did, or if not, what era? And I also asked, where would you want to work in the world? Not just, in our city or on the ships, but where exactly would you want to work?
Wow. There's so many good options. I would have to think Vegas in the 60s might have been fun. Right? It might have been a real party. You had the whole disco atmosphere and everything. Or maybe... You know what? Maybe I'd have to go with the golden era in Vegas when, everything just opened and they had the mafia was in there, the mob was in there, and it was Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack and everything, kind of the golden age of gaming. Maybe I think I'd pick that.
Mm-hmm. John?
It's weird because mine is kind of a similar story to Mikey's, because when I worked in London, England in '91, and I worked there from 91 to 92. And I met a lot of dealers there, and strangely enough, they were roughly about my age now, working in the casinos then. And they would talk to me about what it was like to work in London in the 60s in casinos. And they said it was unbelievable. They said, like London in the 60s, like the whole world was watching. But London in the casinos in the 60s was just like unbelievable. And they were talking about like partying with the Rolling Stones, and all these casinos at the time were owned by like organized crime and gangsters and the Craig twins and all these kind of crazy people. And he just said it was just like unbelievable. So just from some of the stories I had, I'm like that I heard from them, I'm like, I think like the enjoyment level and like the fun time kind of like peaked in the 60s, and it gradually grew down until eventually big corporation took it out and sucked all of it out of the job. So
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah. I just made that a ticker, just so we had a little more room. So it looks a lot nicer when we do that. For me, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I mean, that's definitely an era that I would want to deal in. The game must have been crazy back then. When I talk about games, I talk about roulette, I talk about blackjack or craps. But for me, actual place that I really wanted to deal when I was in my prime, if ever there was a prime, was in Florida. I was hearing so much about the dailies there and how busy and crazy the action was when it was 2 deep and 3 deep. I think that was a place that I really wanted to go to. I mean, I ended up going on the ships, and that was cool and everything, but it wasn't really what I like dealing wise, not where I wanted to go. I really wanted to do some, daily cruises and just get on a really busy game and just see how it was. So yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with what both of you are saying, because that era was incredible, right? And I think that would be the best time to be a dealer. Like, and when we talk about your time in the casino, it's a little different than like the time away from the casino. For me, I'd love to be at a place where there are movie stars and famous people. I think that would be really fun to deal in a place like that. And then after it'd be just getting off of work, it's like, well, I'm going to be around this. That would be really cool. So
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
Oh, well, I know in like in the 60s in Britain, especially like in London, all like the gangs would like run in the casinos, and it wasn't really until like, so it was just like a like a massive party, and it was like a huge event. And in 1968, the British government were like, we're going to put a stop to this. And that's when they brought in, they changed the gaming law, where if you had a criminal record, you couldn't be employed or involved in a casino. So just to get all the organized crime out of the casinos. So in 68, it kind of like stopped it. So prior to that, it was just, I just think it was just like a crazy, like from some of the guys that I knew that worked in them, said it was just like unbelievable. It's like crazy times, like you're there and like you see people on TV, and then all of a sudden they're coming into, you get into the Stones, or they, and then you go to the after parties and, famous models, and like London was like the hub of, so much was happening there. So I think that would have been like a really kind of cool and a fun experience. But to your point as well, I think, as a dealing thing, it's kind of changed, right? Like to your point, Jade, and like, it would have been fun to like daily ships in Vegas, out of Florida. Some of those have dried up, and the games have slowed down, and the opportunities, I think, for some of us who are not Americans have kind of like dried up a little bit, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So on that note, then for both of you, I mean, what would have been the ideal place in your career that you would have wanted to go to and work? I mean, we can't go back to the 60s, but in your era and your timeline, like for me, like it was definitely like the dailies. Like I would have definitely wanted to do that, work in Florida. I almost worked in Shreveport. That was kind of weird, but to work in the Harrah's there, it was really close. But for you, where would have been the ideal place?
Mikey, you go first.
Good question. I would probably somewhere in Europe. Like a London casino, not a Russian casino, definitely not a Russian casino. But I loved during my time in Europe on the ships. I just loved everything about Europe and just how relaxed it was and how nice it was to walk out in the history and everything. So I think maybe if I could have stayed in Europe somewhere, maybe the Baltics or somewhere around there, or the Mediterranean, I think I would have really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. And John?
I know when I was in my early 20s, a big place for British people to go to was either the Bahamas or Sun City in South Africa. And I think we spoke about this before. I didn't, just for my own personal reasons, I didn't want to go to Sun City because it was South Africa and they had apartheid at the time. So, but I know people who went there and they said, like, from a gaming experience, was like incredible. I mean, like the gambling there was just like ridiculous. Like you would see nowhere, probably anywhere. And so I kind of missed out that kind of experience. I didn't really want to go to Nassau, to be honest, but I think I always did, one of the things I always wanted to, I mean, I did daily ships and I did lots of different, and I'm from Europe, so I worked in places there. I always wanted to say, well, what would it be like to actually work in Vegas? I mean, I know it's just because, it's supposedly held up to this high esteem. What would it have been like just to see it firsthand and say, well, is it that good? I mean, are the dealers, but so that I think would have been something I would have liked to have done, but there was never an opportunity for me growing while I was in casinos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Vegas would have been a great place. I don't know about Macau because that was, that's within our era, right?
Mhm.
Just the whole boom of Macau and everything that was going on there. That might have been a place that I would have been okay to work. I know there was a lot of people talking about Crystal Cruises because of how high end it was compared to the other lines. If it was about the money, I think that would have been one of the options as well. So, hello, welcome. I need to figure out who you are because I don't have the comments on, but that's our first comment. Vegas or somewhere tropical. Well, definitely.
I agree with that.
Just imagine like being in Hawaii and dealing. No, that would be so fun.
The casinos in Hawaii?
Are there? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Either. Oh.
No.
Can I tell you a story from one of the, just because we're talking about back in the day, one of the guys I worked with in London when I was there, he was originally from, I think, Czechoslovakia, and I'm not gonna say his name, but he was roughly, like I said, my age when I was working with him in this like high-end casino in London, and he said one time, so back in I worked with him in the 90s, early 90s, like 91, 92, and he said prior when he was living back home in Czechoslovakia when it was like the Eastern Bloc, and him and his family went on a camping trip. So it was him, and he was, like I say, he was 52. So he was probably in his 30s. So him, his wife, his kids, his parents, his grandmother, they went camping to Yugoslavia. And, back then they just had like a big kind of canvas house tent thing that, it was a big roll. It was like this big. It was just, so they had to put it on the, the top of the car and they drove with it. So they went and they camped in Yugoslavia. And while they were camping, the grandmother passed away. And during the sleep, they passed away, and they were all obviously upset, and they didn't know what to do because they didn't have enough money to officially kind of like go to the police stations, report this, the grandmother that passed away, and go through all the coronary and do all that kind of stuff, and and then have her physically transported back to their home and stuff like that. So what they decided to do, they said, well, okay, well, why don't we throw away the tent, put the grandmother in the bag of the tent, we'll put her back on top of the car, and we'll drive through the border. So they were like, okay, this is all we can do. This is all, we don't have any money. This is the best way we can do. We'll take it back home and report it. The granny has passed away. So they drive up, they go to the border. They're all super nervous. So they go before they go to the bar, the border, they're like, okay, we need to have a few drinks. We're really scared. So they stop, they go into a bar, they have a few drinks to kind of calm their nerves. They're in there for about an hour. They come back out and somebody stole the tent. So the tent's gone off the top of the car. So they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? The camera pod is stolen because there's a body in it. So they're like, oh my God, someone's stolen our grandmother. They have no idea what to do. So they were like, oh my God, we just have to go. So then they had to drive through the border and they were like, oh my God, what have we done? So they go through the border and they have no idea whatever happened to the grandmother.
How have I never heard this story before? Oh my God, that's hilarious. Wow.
It's not my story to tell. So some of the I was like, when he told me, I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. But it's so funny. It's terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was it. They never saw the grandmother. And the thing is, again, who was going to report it? Like, oh, look, we found a body that we stole from a tent. It was like, oh my God. It was just terrible.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, that's crazy.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I know who this is. Hi, Selena.
Hey, Selena.
Hey, Selena.
So, Mike, sorry, on the note of Selena, she will be doing the Paigo Tiles Challenge, and
Nice.
First off, thanks for being a part of that. You're always the guinea pig whenever we try something. So, like,
I know, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. I thought it looked okay, and doing the 8 hands was pretty cool. So you are the inaugural champion. So I think we're gonna give you a championship belt with like the G June on it or something. I'll try to figure it out.
Right.
But what I'm thinking is that maybe someone like Selena will come in tomorrow if you're available. Maybe 2 of you will just go head to head for the championship title.
Oh,
and
that
just
sounds
keep
like fun.
doing that every week so that we have more than just one person. So if we have like 2 people going at it, I think that would be fun. Then I could
That
do
sounds
some
like
announcements and call you the champion and hype you up. So
Nice.
so
Like that.
yeah, maybe we'll try to do that. But there you are. Hello, Selena. Really like your picture. It looks great. Must be a Wednesday shot. Oh, getting ready for Christmas. That's great. All right. Oh, there we go. See? I think that'll be really cool. So
Hey, I made $85 and 8 hands on Paigo. Yeah, beat that.
I'm trying to figure out how we should do it. Do you let her bet first and then you bet after because you're the champion? Maybe that's how.
Maybe.
I don't know. We'll think about it. I think it's fun. I'm glad that we got to do that. I actually have like a dice felt too, right? So maybe if we get down and get better at this, and we can like do some more dealing with some of the other games.
That's true, but I can't get you to roll for me. I've seen you roll, so.
Oh well, yeah, I guess.
So.
But I was thinking if I just do the shaker and then you told me when to stop.
Oh, that works. Yeah, that works.
I don't know. So yeah, just opens up some windows. But anyways, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, sure. We can do something like that. Oh, look. There you go. Strategy revealed.
Yeah.
All right.
Selena's fearless. She's taking you down.
Yeah. Or that could be the shortest match in the history of.
It could be short.
I bet $10.
Mike, you need to have like a wrestling name, like Mike Guaylobo Stark.
Oh, I like that. Guaylobo. That is my new name for the Paigo challenge. I am Guaylobo. Okay.
Maybe can we change it? Let's change your name. I don't even know how to spell that. There you go. Down there.
I like this. I like that. Okay.
Mike, I think well, John and I were on. I know you couldn't make it on last week, but we did have
Right.
that question about the online gambling with the new site being introduced in the province. But what were your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts overall on online gambling and online gambling website?
I don't really do a lot of online gambling, so I've got a PokerStars account that is sitting dormant for a little bit. I think I have $11 in there. For me, I know a lot of people do sports books on it and everything like that. I just I guess I don't really have any interest in it. I don't know how well it would do. I still think it's convenient for people. I get it, but I think people like to see the actual cards, the dealer, the hands play out the slot machine in front of them, right? Otherwise, they're going to feel it's fixed or it's rigged in some kind of way. I have kind of a weird feeling about putting money into a blackjack table that's computer generated, right?
Yeah, no, I a lot of people have that feeling as well, and I think it takes a little bit of time to get over that. If you do get over it, I think a lot of people have gone through the experience of online poker already, especially in this province. So they've seen times when they have been scammed, and they've seen times where it has been legit. So it's a growing process, and it's difficult for a province like this that's introducing it fairly late compared to some of the other places in the world, I think. So, yeah. But it's good to get your opinion. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I think as well, there's a lot of times, excuse me, a lot of times, like the players complain about the casinos. They go, oh, I hate how you do this, and I hate why you do this. But sometimes they probably forget that a lot of the things we're doing protects them as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's some comfort and security knowing that if you go to, the Palace, not the Palace, any of the casinos in Edmonton or Enoch or whatever, you're not going to get ripped off. The casino is there to make sure and try to stop anybody from getting ripped off. They're not going to rip you off. They don't really care too much. Whereas, there's a safety, a safe surroundings to gamble, right? Which I think carries a lot of weight. I mean, like because if you gamble online, maybe you are going to get ripped off. Or if you go some of the other, avenues to gamble, there's somebody may take advantage of you. So I know people complain. I mean, they've always complained about casinos. Oh, these slots are too tight. Why can't I do this? I can do it in Vegas. Probably can't, but anyway, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what they're doing, what we do, and what we used to do is something it helps them and it keeps them in like a safe gambling environment where at least they have a modicum of chance of winning, depending on how they play. But do you know what I mean? It's where it's sometimes online where, like you've all said, there's a chance where you are going to get ripped off because people can cheat easily when it's online, right? And there's you can text and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Beth. Nice seeing you on. Online gaming, does it benefit charities or just government? Who gets the money?
Good question.
I kind of heard today, just on one of the commercials, that it goes into kind of like the charity pool. I don't know if that's 100% true, where, like every 3 months that pool gets, because I think it's just slots, right? So it's just increasing the pool of slot revenue, I guess, that's going to get divided between the charities for whatever. So I think, I'm not going to, bet my house on that, but I think that, that's where it is. It's just another avenue for the charities to kind of gain more revenue.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that break is either. I mean, if it is treated like a slot machine, then it would be 15 for the charity, 15 for, well, there wouldn't be an operator.
Yeah, no
so
operator.
Already it's a lot different than what we're thinking. So it's not 15, 15, 70. It's something else. I'm assuming that it'll just be split. I can't even make that assumption. I think a lot of it is going to the government and just trying to recoup some of the losses for the year.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we got to be able to look at it. They have it posted maybe on the AGLC website or something.
Yeah. it should be posted, and I think that
Yeah.
I mean it's charitable, so it is like it is transparent. You should be able to see
Mhm.
how it is split. You know, it changes, I guess. So during COVID, shut down the charity stuff at all. So I hope they benefit. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true, and I think I'm glad that they did the. I don't know if I'm saying this off, but I think the 50-50 was something that kind of helped the charities. I don't know if it's uh, the same pool and whatnot. This
Oh,
is
you mean like?
new.
You
The
mean the?
Oilers?
No, that's just with the um, charity foundation, right?
Is it the Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation for that? Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a provincial thing just because it wasn't. I know that they hosted it. I didn't know if it was actually going to the actual like uh, the other charities that are involved in with the province in gaming. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, because I think that was kind of like different too. Because remember when I used to go like volunteer for like the hockey stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
You go there and they hand out the buck a puck and all that kind of stuff. And I remember it used to be for the Oilers thing. It was what the charity could actually, sorry, like the hockey club or whatever. It was kind of capped on how much they could actually get from that night, whatever.
Hmm.
So I don't know how they did it now. That there was no people there was no volunteers, and how do you pick? I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, I think they do a lot of cool things. I mean, like the Edmonton thing, they just gave $5 million to that school. I mean, like last week, that was incredible, right?
Yeah, that was incredible. That was really cool.
Yeah, I
But
think they distribute it among their
yeah,
charities. I think they're pretty good at distributing it among the community. At least it's kept in Alberta somewhat. I think it's probably different from the casino charities that we have, but it's hopefully still going to a lot of charities who need it.
yeah. Just to reiterate what I said last week, I think that if it was about getting the charities more revenue, I think that the each of the properties should have the ability to create something as well. Because like when John, I think I remember saying that like last week, John, if you had your hotel, if I had a hotel connected to my casino and I wanted them to be able to play while they're in their hotel room, then why couldn't I do that and create a similar model and then have the appropriate cuts for the revenues for the charities and for the government?
They do a similar thing in like like it's called white label in like like credit cards. Like I remember when I first used to come to Canada, and I'd be like, "Hey, John, let's go to the football game," and I'd be like, oh, "Okay," and I go out, drink way too much. I come home with like a blanket. I'm like, "Where did I get this from?" And then like 2 weeks later, I get a credit card. I'm like, "Oh, I guess I applied for the credit card." It's like they're all from the same. Like they white label it. I mean, like, why couldn't they do the similar things again? Right? I'd be like, okay, this is like a white label. From the appearance of it, it could be like the Marriott Gaming Casino, but it's being promoted by the Marriott. They get a slice of the revenue, but all the back end and everything else is done by Alberta Gaming, whatever, right? The online platform. I think there's so many opportunities, right?
Yeah, you think about that with casinos. If they want to cash in on Albertans' craze for 50-50s, each casino could have their own 50-50 draw every weekly. You know what I mean?
The people in the casino. Do you know what I mean? Like, why couldn't they have you imagine like, okay, let's go there Friday night. We'll have a 50-50 and whatever. And then, I don't know. It's
right. Yeah. Like, I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know the logistics of applying for an application or anything, but.
Well, I think it would probably be a little bit easier and faster if it was one of the actual facilities that were doing that. Do you think this is going to accelerate? I mean, they're looking for ways to generate and recoup a lot of the losses for the year. Do you think this would accelerate the sports book, like online betting? And do you think that's something that would be coming sooner than later? Or do you think there's still a lot of hurdles for everyone to kind of overcome before implementing it?
I don't know. I see the successes of other sports books. I don't see why. I mean, I think Alberta's always had I shouldn't say reputation. It's always lagged behind in in innovation and that kind of thing. So I would hope that you can get online gambling on the sports book sooner than later. But you never know with this province. You never know.
Yeah.
To be honest, excuse me, I think, like growing up in Britain, like Wales, whatever, one of the things one of the things we had back home is they would tax like sports books, right? And it used to be you could pay 10% of the bet upfront before anything happens. So you're making a $10 bet on whatever, this horse is going to win, whatever odds. I'm going to bet $10 and I'll pay the dollar tax. And then so when it wins, then all that winnings is like tax free. Or you can just pay your $10, and then if it wins, they just kind of pull it together and go, okay, you 10% of that total, right? I think it's a way. If the government is smart, why wouldn't you want to do that? It's another sin tax, you know what I mean? Like where it's a way to generate revenue, right? Okay, it's not GST. If you all of a sudden you go, we got sports bets, like really, I mean, it can't be. What I've noticed about Albertans and Edmontons and stuff like that, they really are. They'll buy into stuff if it's good. If it's garbage, they're like, I don't want to do this. This is garbage. So if they do something, it has to be very good, right? So if you turn around and go, you know what, I can bet on any race in the world or all these multiple different bets. I could mix and match my bets, but it's instantaneous. And I can go, okay, I want to bet this guy. I want, whatever, like it's a Vegas book. If you're going to do it, go to basically steal any ideas from someone else, put them in your book. I can sit at, I'm playing poker and I'm out. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to chill now. I can do all these bets on my phone. Oh, look, I won some money. Okay, maybe I can buy in and take some money off my credit card. I gamble. But I mean, it has to be good. If it's not good, nobody wants to play it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we saw that during the last 50-50 debacle. It kind of just turned people off of it, right? When there was all these drawing issues and refund issues and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to do it right and make sure it's done well.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Loretta. Online gaming is only benefiting AGLC.
Oh wow.
Is that like? I'm just kind of curious how it's. I mean, Loretta's super smart and she's awesome. I'm just kind of like, can you just elaborate? How is it only like? Is it like, where does the money go? Is it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't see any cut to the charities. Then I think that's just a way for them to just recoup and try to get regular revenue back. I think that's why. But to get that model in, I don't know how long that. I don't know how long it took for them to actually create this and have it set up, or was it just something done in the spur of the moment? Was it something that was already set up for years? That's kind of like the questions that a lot of people have when it comes to something like online gambling. I mean, I looked at it, I went through the demos and everything, and I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I wasn't really blown away by it. It felt like, I don't know. It felt like an app to me. It didn't really feel like, going to. There was this machine that I love to play in Vegas, so Single Zero, but it was Odyssey, and Odyssey was a really nice roulette kind of version of Single Zero where you can just bet, and you can bet dollars on it, and it was a nice big screen, and to go on to this site and see the roulette, I mean, it was okay, but I don't think it was really comparable to something like that. So, yeah.
I haven't seen the website or anything. I haven't looked at it. I kind of half expected it to be 8-bit gaming related kind of thing. A little bit with the AGLC here, honestly. So
I personally don't think any government really should be involved in creating the experience of like online gaming entertainment, because in all honesty, that's not what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for like, okay, they should gain revenue from it, but let the free market say, okay, look, let's, Mike and Jay design this gaming experience and do all these things, and okay, they have to, a portion of that has to go to Alberta Gaming, the charities, and all that kind of stuff. Cool. Or the Marriott, maybe they do these things and they have a different platform, but some of that goes back to Alberta Gaming. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't think the government, in all honesty, they shouldn't. That's not the industry they should be in, right? Like gambling shouldn't be. Yes, they should make money off it, but I think just like as a steady income. But I don't think they should be in the business of, because I don't think it'll end up being good, to be honest.
Regulate it, don't create it.
Exactly, right? I mean, I think that's the point.
Yeah. Well, I remember when poker first came in, and there was a lot of like turnkey, businesses that were trying to just branch out from like one specific model of poker, online poker machines, like the way that they created the programming. There would be a lot of people piggybacking and just trying to create different versions of the same thing in the same pool of players. I think that if they wanted to do something like that, they should. You guys are exactly right. They should actually give it to somebody that can create an app and then create the group of people, and then absolutely regulate it, but have that ability to kind of branch out and have that person be able to kind of share that app. And I mean, you have a lot of people that are computer savvy there, right? They do a lot of the maintenance, so they should be able to create the security protocols for anything that's created. So that's my opinion on that. So
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Anything else to add, guys, before we move on to the next one?
Oh, one thing. Sorry, I would love to have. I think gambling, like everybody loves gambling, and gambling ties into sports. It's just interlinked. You know what I mean? It's just like symbiotic relationship, right? I mean, gambling and sports, they just have to live together. I mean, how cool would it be if you were seeing an Eskimo game and while you're there, you're betting and like, hey, what I mean? Like, is he going to make this throw and blah, blah, blah. And you could do all these things on your phone and, what's the next play? You could bet on what is the next play going to happen or is he going to complete these things? And in real time, you'd be making money or losing money and it'd be, the 50-50 would be there. And I mean, but the money would benefit, like whatever. I just think at some point, it has to stop being so static and boring as like, oh, they're going to win and they're going to win by, 132 points, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even engaging because it's like, who cares? I mean, like, you may have lost all your money by the first 15 minutes of a game, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with that too.
I might go broke doing it though, but
oh yeah, but it'd be fun. Little nickel bets.
For all of you online, welcome. Make sure you say hi in the comments so we know that you're here. If we do have enough people, we will have our roulette battle at 9 o'clock. We carried it over last week. There wasn't anybody online to challenge. But if you do want the roulette battle, just type in the comments and we will do it. Maybe if you're the only one, you probably win. All you have to do is get it right. So. Also, thank you to Cynthia. I did want to give her a shout out. I don't know if she's going to be on a bit later to say hi, but we will be giving this away next week.
Oh, look at that! She does amazing work, hey?
Yeah, it's so
like
cool.
Really, this is wax, right?
And caustic. I can never really pronounce this. I really have to. I watched like some of her videos and I still don't know how to pronounce this. But
yeah, I've seen some of them too. It's just amazing, hey?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think that for you to get an entry in this, we'll do a draw next week, kind of like how we did with the dice. So if you do want to enter, I will be putting in some more information. I'll be putting it on the platforms on how to get extra entries, but we'll figure that out. I think it's about visiting her CJ's website and visiting her YouTube channel. She does really, really, really good tutorial videos. So if you really want to work on something like that, go visit her YouTube site. Award-winning, so.
Awesome.
Yeah. What's with the order? Hi.
Hey, Loretta.
Hi, Loretta.
Hello.
Oh, thanks for bringing up the safe combination story. I'll never live that down now.
Mikey, well, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I volunteered in a casino, and it was, to be honest, I hated it because it went into like I didn't leave till 4 o'clock in the morning, and they gave me the safe confirmation, like the combination. First thing I thought of was like, oh, it's Mikey. I better not lock it in the safe.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, we're not gonna let that go ever, Mike. So
It's
sorry,
awesome, man.
yeah,
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's fine.
it's pretty epic, I think. So,
Oh, Loretta's at Yellowhead.
oh no way.
That's awesome.
Check the safe.
Just on, yeah. Great. Now those people are gonna be like, hey, how come he's not working right now?
They called in sick. He's on there right now.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
No,
No,
go ahead. John.
I said it'd be funny if you called in sick and then your boss come on this chat and go, "Hey Jay, you were supposed to be here today." Yeah.
Well, we did talk about that briefly last week, and I'm still getting some text to get some paperwork done and sign some agreements. So I'm still there. I just need to come back and work my 1 day a week. 1 day a month. Sorry, not a week. But hopefully, everyone else gets their jobs first, because I think it's more important that the people that need the jobs have that employment and have the hours. So I hear that they're doing well. I mean, there's no craps at that casino or Pagao Tiles from the last time that I talked with them. I did, however, go with Lindsay on Saturday. We went to Argyle. We had some dinner at a Japanese village there in the south, so I just asked Lindsay what she wanted to do. We ended up we ended up driving over there after just to see the place. We had a nice, we had a drink and we kind of hung out there for a little bit just to see the renovations. And it was nice. It was really nice.
Yeah, I heard it was nice.
Yeah, Mike, I think that if we were working there and you saw that, it'd just be, it looked like a breath of fresh air. Honestly,
Yeah.
It was a different casino. It didn't feel like a facelift. It just felt like a whole new casino to me.
Wow.
Just to see that. I love what they did there, and I think those people deserve it that are working there. So, great job.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
And they did have craps open, so we didn't play. We kind of just drank. So we were just sitting overlooking all of the games.
Mhm.
But you saw the dividers, and it looked. And I said this with John before when I went in Yellowhead. The protocols were the same as like you and I, like when we go into the university, when we go in the hospital.
Mhm.
It was very similar. The protocols where they do the temperature checks and they ask you the questions and whatnot. So
Okay.
I really like that with the casino industry, like with what they've been doing with ensuring that people come in and they at the very most just at least having some sort of way to kind of check people and just make sure that everyone is okay and safe to the best of their abilities, right? So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, well, it's really quiet. It's a Wednesday. Loretta, just if you have any more info, just let us know how things are going there. From what I remember, like Yellowhead's the same. They do have the barriers up. I think the dealers in the day shift, I remember leaving, but they did have the face shields. I don't know if that's mandatory for all the dealers there. I don't know if that's optional, but I don't think they're wearing gloves anymore. So, or whether they were in the first place. I think they're just regular. So, yeah.
I'd be curious to, we've spoken about this before, like I think in Edmonton, to be honest, I think there's too many casinos and too many like avenues to gamble in person, so it'll be interesting, now this whole COVID thing that's happened and how it's challenging, everybody, every business. How are they going to get more, people in their casinos, right? What are they going to do? Because you have to be very creative now. You have to be very inventive. How are you going to get, people, for whatever reason, they may have less income, they may have whatever. So how are you going to get them through your door to be on your tables or your slots? And And realistically, and the challenge that casinos have is all the tables play this. The odds are the same, the slots are the same. Then it's just like, okay, what can you do that's going to bring people in? Like, going back when we first, a long time ago, when we started these conversations, we talked about the craps in the Palace. The dealers are amazing, right? Compared to the other dealers, and the pace of the game and the fun, and it was just so much better than that. The quality of the experience was better. It'd be interesting to see, because of this experience now, and COVID, what a casino is going to step up and do to create that experience to get people back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great question. How can you be innovative at a time like this when you have restrictions on how many people can even be in your building? When you have, when the overall, attitude of somebody right now is like, is it safe to go out? It's really hard to bring people in when you're in that situation. So it's, you need someone really smart in marketing to jump in and figure out methods to bring people in. And I think that, and like, I'm not knocking HLC or anything. Like, I love HLC for the effort that they put. And I think that is a smart thing to at least attempt to put something online for the people that don't want to go out, right? So I give them credit for at least, doing something, although like anyone will, it's been highly criticized, and we still criticize it ourselves, but to at least have something in at this time, I think that's, it's a good effort, and I think it at least you're trying, right? So
yeah, AGLC is pretty good, honestly. They are pretty good. It just takes some, for me, from my experience, from my liking, it just seems it takes them a long time to come around to where it should be, instead of starting off with it right there. You know what I mean?
So Mike, you also had a question here when we were doing our prep, but if you wanted to kind of elaborate on this question, it would be great. You were talking about the state of the casinos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the day, we had 3 casinos. They were always busy. I guess we had Gold Dust too, a mini casino. But now, how many casinos are there in Edmonton now?
I say 6.5.
6.5, right? There's a lot. They're kind of close together. You know what I mean? Except for maybe Argyle, right? There's a lot of places to gamble and not a lot of people. And especially now with the economy and everything, I think we've just seen an overcrowded market. And maybe that plays a little bit into dealing quality, right? The experience that you get in now, right? And people are looking for more and more dealers. Maybe not now, but before. And they were maybe a little less picky on the quality of dealers or the customer service aspect. And I think that's all taken effect, and how the experience has changed compared to even 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel that the market is overcrowded? And that, excluding this year, obviously.
Yeah.
But do you think that we have too many casinos in our city? Do we have too many in our province? How far do you think this is when we talk about oversaturation?
Oh, sorry. Mike, sorry.
Mike first, though.
Oh, it's me. Okay, yeah. I think. Yeah, I honestly think I haven't been to Calgary in ages, by the way. So, but there are a lot of casinos, and they're all good, and they all offer something different. They're all fine, but there's just so many of them. I don't know. Nobody can compete with the Creed. I know that. I get that, but there's just, I don't know. It just seems like somebody's got to step up and be innovative and find something to bring more people in. Like we were talking earlier, with maybe an online sports book, or I know stadium gaming's around and stuff like that, but just, I don't know what the answer is, but it just feels like there's just too many places now.
John, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I agree with Mike. I think that the challenge is I've been in Edmonton for like 20 years now, and I think the challenge is there was too many casinos trying to do exactly the same thing, and you all kind of they all kind of tried to okay, we're doing this and we catered. What happened if what would happen? Like I worked in London for a long time, for like a year or so. A long time ago, but it was for the year, where they had like kind of like niche casinos. Like they had, okay, this is exclusively like high-end casinos. I mean, I had a friend of mine who worked in a casino, and they'd have like the Sultan of Brunei would come in and gamble, and I mean, it was so exclusive, and that it was super high-end, right? I mean, like the challenge I think with Edmonton is they're all trying to be like the same kind of generic low end kind of, because I would say low end, but I mean like the same kind of quality casinos. Why couldn't you have one and say, you know what, this is the kind of quality casinos we have, we're going to raise the maximum to this, we're going to do this, all the dealers have to have X amount of experience, the quality of experience is going to be so much better, the table minimum is going to be higher, everything else is going to be high end. Do you know what I mean? Like, because at some point something has to change, right? It's you can't continually have the same kind of casinos offering the same without them all at some point losing money, right? At some point you need to have something like a niche market, like you said, like River Cree. Right now, nobody's going to compete with them at their particular, demographic that they're going for. Well, then why go for that if you can't compete with it? Why wouldn't you go for something else, right? I mean, like if you were in, the casino downtown, why can you turn around and go, okay, what is our demographic there? Okay, we're going to turn around and we only have $25 minimum blackjack. We have whatever, but we have this niche group, and it's an exclusive group, but we make money off it that way. I mean, sometimes we don't all need to compete for the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just breaking it down, but that's the problem when you have, different groups kind of battling for the same, the same clientele, and that's the problem when it comes to high limit games, because everyone wants to bring in that money. Because who doesn't want the high limit player over, your $3 blackjack players, $2, $5 blackjack players? Like that's what kind of market do you really want to grab? And again, it comes to like poker as well. Like how much of all of the poker players in the city or in the province do you want to grab? And it's so difficult. And like in a perfect world, I think I mean like I would definitely want to. If I owned one of the casinos, let's say it was downtown, then I would say, I would just want this niche. If it was like, if I'm looking for Pagao tiles, this is where you want to go because I have 5 tables. I don't really have so many blackjack tables. I have maybe some roulette tables, but it's just baccarat, Pagao tiles, anything lucky, things like that. So it's just difficult because your competition is going to be like, well, I want it too. Like if I want the craps section, it's like, well, I can have the craps section too. I'm just gonna open a table. You can't stop me from doing that. So
I once worked in a casino in London, and it was actually on Baker Street. Like if Sherlock Holmes fans, like Baker Street, there was no 221B Baker Street. I was like, where is it? It's not there. And it was a kind of a high end casino, and they used to have Rolls Royces cars, like fleet cars, which would go and pick up the players. And the player would be like, hey, come and pick me up. And they would drive there, you pick them up, bring them there. I remember bringing and it was nothing out of the ordinary. They'd be like, oh yeah, you're dealing to, this is a prince, like a Japanese princess or whatever. It was crazy, but but they were like, you know what? We just raised the standard. This is our, you don't need to deal to this huge bandwidth. Maybe you just want to have this. This is the bandwidth you want to deal with. Maybe there's not that there is that market for this slim, group of clientele. We'll just go for those, and we'll cater to those, right?
oh, yeah.
But I just think right now it's they're all trying to do the same thing, and you're all trying to eat from the same bowl, right? And I eventually I think it'll fail.
Yeah. I mean it makes sense. It makes sense the way that you're explaining it. And so I mean it's true, right? So is it oversaturated? What's gonna happen in the end? But we haven't really seen a casino close yet. like since 2007. That's when we hit our peak. Well, no, actually, yeah,
No.
2007. That's right. So we did hit our peak.
Oh
there,
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
yeah.
Can I tell you a story? So I worked in 2 casinos in London. This was like in the 90s, whatever. And the one I said was high end, and it was like crazy. It was just fun. It was just so much. And the other one was like, it was just off. It was actually Shaftesbury Avenue, which is like the theatre district, just off Piccadilly Circus. So it's kind of like down and lower end, like gambling, whatever. But it was part of a chain of casinos, right? And they had like really high end casinos and like, and then they had, I think, 2 kind of like rough and tumble casinos, which apparently had 2 craps tables, like the one I worked in, another one, and then some really nice ones. When they used to do the training, so they would hire like 30 dealers. Okay, we're gonna do, and it would be for like the group of all the casinos, right? So they go, okay, we hire 30 people, and they'd be like one guy out of the 30, and then they go, okay, you're all gonna come to, like, I worked at, it was a place called the Golden Nugget. So I was in a Nugget. They go there, and these dealers would train and they would practice. Within 1 year, they would cherry pick all the like the pretty girls out, and they would take them to like the high end like Mayfair casinos, and like whatever was left would just stay in this casino. So it was the casino I worked with was literally like the island of misplaced toys. And I was there, so I was like, well, I guess that makes me one too.
Pick me, pick me.
Yeah, like, there I go. And they're like, nope, sorry, you're one of those dice boys. Get over there in the corner.
Oh my god, that's funny. Well, we are double digits, so I think we will attempt to do the roulette battle in a few minutes here. Why not? We didn't do one last week, so let's do one this week. But, we still have which question? No, this is your question, John. I think we'll touch on it after, but I did have a question for both of you. John, you did answer this before, and I'm just looking for it right now. Mike, do you remember your very first week working on the cruise ships?
Do I remember my first week?
Your first week ever, just getting on your first contract and just jumping on and being like, oh my God, here I am.
Yeah, I do. It was, I mean, probably the first 2 weeks of my first cruise ship. It was probably the only time that I was sober on the cruise ships, I would think. No, my first ship was the Adventure, and it ported out of Puerto Rico. So I went down there, and I had an overnight in Miami, and we stayed at the Radisson Plaza, and I had a room to myself. I was lucky, I guess. And in the morning, we got up. The van took us to the airport and landed in Puerto Rico, and there was greeters at the airport and took us right to the ship. And they were guiding us around, and I was lost. Like, everything was just so new to me, right? And getting on the ship, okay, your cabin's here. This is here. Here's a casino. Here's a mess. And I was standing in the middle of the hallway, and I'm like, I have no idea where I am. This ship is massive, right? It's huge. I remember meeting everybody, and everybody was awesome. And it just so much training, fire training, boat drill training, immigration, and working on top of that. It was just I remember a lot of it, and at the same time, it was kind of a blur too. But overall, it was still great. It was awesome.
That's awesome. See, you mentioning that first week just reminded me of the training, and I completely forgot about it because there was just one thing that kept like just staying in my mind. Like the first few days was in my mind, and I just completely forgot about all of the orientation training, the boat drill training, everything else like that.
Oh, yeah, the fire drill training, the extinguishers, the watertight doors, everything. Like it was training and work, and then training and training.
Can I tell you a story about watertight door?
This is gonna be good.
Here's my first ship. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. So my first ship I went on, partying up. I was 21 and just like, hey, this is so much fun. This is so much fun. And then, during those drills, like Mikey was saying, that, what I mean? It's weird how, like, we're talking away and we're like, hey, that just reminded me of a story, and he's like, oh, how do you use the watertight doors? Well, they showed us, obviously, because, in an emergency, you need to do. Anyway, so about 4 months later, there's a big corridor party, and I ended up using the watertight door when it wasn't supposed to, and we weren't sinking, so I kind of used it, and I jammed my thumb in it. And anyway, so there's a big party. I managed to get my thumb out, and it didn't like get lost, whatever. Anyway, so the next morning I wake up, and my thumb, the nail is completely black. And I was waking up, I was like, my God, what's going on? And it was throbbing like crazy. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I mean, so much pain. I was like, so I knew the doctor on the ship, and she was really nice. So I went up to see her. I was like, first of all, I went to the mess, and this thing, I couldn't deal. I knew I couldn't deal because my thumb was just throbbing, and the nail was completely black. I was like, and the doctor was there. She said, yeah, you need to come and see me now. That doesn't look right. So I was like, okay. So before I went to work, I went to see her. And as I walked into like the hospital nursery thing, whatever it was, I walk in, and there's a guy there, and he was like this, Filipino guy, and he's in his the uniform, whatever, and he's been painted right across his face. So right across here was paint, and he was lying on his bed, and he's in agony because he's like, I'm not sure if he'd been painted in the eyes and he'd fallen, but he was really in pain. He's like, ah. So I walk in with my thumb like that, going, and she turns around and she says, oh, you get up. So she made him stand up, this poor guy, and he's like, oh, and he stands up. And then she goes, oh, I'm going to rip your nail up. I was like, oh my God, no, I can't. So then I'm thinking, oh, geez, she's going to rip my nail off. But then she kind of put some kind of, anesthetic, whatever it was, some painkiller, injected down the side of my thumb. And I was like, oh, this was all before me going to work. And I was like, oh my God. And then she went and sliced it with a kind of like a scalpel, and let the pressure out, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? It was vile. And then she wrapped it up. I swear to God, it looked like my thumb looked like that big. I walked into the pit, and I was like, I've been to the infirmary, I hit my thumb, and they were like, okay, what can you deal? And I just put my thumb up like that, and they were like, okay, it's the stick for you then. So then that was it. The entire night I spent like an hour on a stick. I go on break, come back. It's like, oh, stick again, because I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't get down nothing. I couldn't do it. It was crazy.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, let's do. Let's see. I mean, we're double digits still, so let's see if we get some response, and we'll come back to that question. But let's do the. Let's do the roulette battle. Okay, everyone, good luck. Here we go. Oops. Completely forgot what the payout was.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
got it.
I think I'm not sure who. I think we've got 3 answers already.
Oh wow, there it is.
I think they should get a bonus prize because I don't remember what kind of Lego dolly you used.
Well, see, John, like for our 20th episode, we're gonna ask who all of the Lego characters were in these roulette battles, and then we get a bigger.
Yeah, it should be like in consecutive order. Can you name the 20 Lego dollies?
I like that.
Very good, Selena. Just beat Mandy. like by seconds, actually. You guys are really good. And Facebook user 447. Amanda. Hello, Amanda Judd.
Oh, Amanda.
Why are you awake right now? And how come you didn't say yes to the StreamYard acceptance agreement so we can get your name on there? Anyways, nice to see you.
Springtime down under, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, wow, it's so nice to see you. All right, so let's go back to, okay, sorry, let's keep going. Selena, congratulations, you win. Is that your first win? I think it's your first win. So, wow, she won the dice. She won a roulette battle. And she's going for your title, Mike. So,
Nope.
good
That
luck
one's
tomorrow.
Shane with Guilo Bow.
So before we went to the question, Loretta did say Yellowhead is great at keeping the place sanitized. Yeah, I think they were, for me, that was my favorite place so far going in. I did go to River Cree once. I did go to Argyle once. Yellowhead was cool because you have your own entrance. You go right in the middle there if you're staff. You go on the right side if you are a patron. And it's the same protocol. They take the temperature, they shoot you with a gun, and they ask you the questions. And then you get to go in. So it's cool. And then for Yellowhead, you know how it is like that, the bank's in the middle. So you go on the right side, and then if you're gonna exit, you go around. So it's things like that I really appreciate, you know, when it comes to casinos and just them actually, you know, being diligent when it comes to the safety of the patrons. So yeah.
No, that's good.
All right, so we're talking about the first week on the cruise ships. Mandy says, woke up the first morning and barely made it to the toilet, which is like 10 feet from the bed. I had motion sickness so bad. I remember safety training, so much safety training, the drinking case week too. Yeah, and again, so like you're talking about the training and Mandy's talking about the motion sickness. You know what? That is exactly, again, that just reminded me of that first week where I was like, yeah, it was crazy. Just getting out there, you know, on the first sea day, yeah, I was pretty nauseous too. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, the drinking came week too.
Yeah.
Selena says, my first week on ships was a blast, surreal, so fun. Overwhelmed by the mere size of the ship, the I-95 in my room. Yeah. No way I could fit all my clothes for Alaska and the Caribbean in that tiny closet.
Yep.
Do you know the thing that I always used to do the first night on a ship was I always used to learn, okay, how do I get from my cabin to the casino, my cabin to the crew mess, and my cabin to the bar, and from the casino to the bar. That was the only fourth. I was like, okay, if I can learn that the first night, I don't care about anything else. So, you know, I could get to work, I could go to the staff bar, the crew bar, whatever, and I could go and eat. After that, I was like, it's okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember being lost so many times on the ship. It's so many times walking up and down gangways and passenger corridors. All of a sudden, wrong door. Just trying to find something, the promenade or something like that. Just
Oh wow. Yeah, I remember my first week. Well, the first few days, like I said, even just going. We were doing Alaska, so I joined the Mercury, and when we got on to, you know, once we kind of went up to the boat and then we talked to security, the first thing that the security guard said was like, "Where are you? You guys are laundry." And I'm like, "What?" Like right off the bat, I'm like, "I'm laundry." Okay, so like so much of a stereotype, and it's like a Filipino talking to a Filipino. It's like, "Where are you? Laundry, right? You're laundry." And I'm like, "No, like I'm a dealer." So like right off the bat, I'm like, "Oh, great, this is gonna be an awesome 6 months." I get in and I was smoking back then, so I'm just like there's nowhere to get smoke. So then I knock on the door in the room. It's like my neighbor, and it was a guy from South Africa, and I'm like, "Hey, my name is Jay." Introduced, first dealer I met, and I just asked him if he had a smoke. He's like, "Yeah," and it's the first time, Mike, that I had a Marley Red,
Oh, really?
I didn't know what that was. So it was like my first Marlboro, and well, it was a Marlboro Red. I think when we were in Vegas, like yeah, we were smoking before, but I had a Marley Red, and I think it was like 2 drags, and I was just done. I had like the bends and everything. So then I
Nice.
felt gross like the first day. Get into my room. My roommate wasn't there. He was from England, and obviously I'm looking. It's like okay, I'm probably like top bunk. That's what John. That's what you said. Usually, the new guy is going to be top bunk. So then I'm like, okay, this is fine. I can see like there's clothes and stuff under on the bottom blanket. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's top bunk. It's empty. And I look and I'm just like, moving the blanket. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be all right. I think I can manage this. And a used condom just falls off of the top bunk onto the floor. And I dodge it and I'm like, oh no way. Like he's like, seriously. So the story here was that the roommate of my first roommate, I guess they were like really close friends, and I think he got kicked out or he got fired for I don't know if he's being over intoxicated, but yeah, I mean that was something happened there, and that was like the first time that it's the first time I had to deal with something like that. So, and I'll never forget that because it was like so gross. And yeah, that was the thing that always burning in my head whenever
Welcome aboard package, hey? That's
yeah.
awesome.
But then it got better and better after the first week. It got better, but like the first time I met my roommate, he's just like, "Hey man, how you doing? Good. Did you want a beer?" And I was just like, "Yeah," and he was like, oh, "Okay, good." Because if you said no, then we wouldn't be really, we wouldn't be okay, right? I was like, no, good. I'm glad, right? So we were both like relieved. It's like, okay, good. We can make this work. So, but I mean, he was disappointed that his buddy got booted. So I kind of understand that, but I don't know. It was kind of crazy.
That reminds me. My first week on the ship was insane with training and working and everything. But not my first Sunday because I signed on the Sunday, but the Sunday after that. So I guess my second Sunday, after my first full week, we had on the adventure. It was a parade we did down the promenade, down the main aisle of the ship and everything, and every service, every different area in the ship sent some stuff. So you had stewards, you had waitresses, you had stuff like that. So they sent me and another person, the casino staff, and okay, you got to dance and have fun down the ship and have all these new passengers. They're going to be looking at you, and you got to smile and wave and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can do that, right? I should have a couple drinks first. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna make you dress up as a giant slot machine. So this they put me in this suit and it was huge, and I had this big spinning light on the top of my head, and my head was tilting down, and I had to look like I was having fun and walking around. And after the parade, we all had to line up in the theater, and everybody was taking pictures of us and everything. We're in the theater, and everybody on the ship is just looking at us. And my head's kind of tilting. I got neck pains and everything. This lake was huge. It's spinning around, and it was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done. I've done a lot of embarrassing things. That ranks up there.
Well, since we're on this topic, how did you guys feel about the food that you were served? Like for a lot, you know what? For me, breakfast was by far like the best meal, but you could never get into that window because it was like so early and it was like short. But I had a hard time eating lunch in their calf there, and I think I resorted to, maybe 3 months in, I just resorted to like cereal and getting pizza from like Deck 12. How about you guys? Like, how was the food for you?
Most of the ships I worked on, it was awful. And the only time I was ever at breakfast because I drank to it. I would be all over, and we'd like, hey, let's go to breakfast. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. And we'd be okay, go to breakfast. I rarely ate lunch because I would sleep through it because, whatever party, and you'd wake up and it's like, oh, I should go and eat supper now. And it was all odd, like the food you want for breakfast. It's like, oh, look, it's like weird supper time food. And you're like, I just want eggs. But it was all kind of messed up. But we ended up being like, most of the people I knew being really creative. Like, what can you make in your cabin? You'd be like, is that food in your bags? No. And he'd be like bringing all this food in from the port. And you like cooking it on like a sandwich toaster. You're like, oh look, I made, I had some and a kettle, and it was just like MacGyver. You'd make all these this food that were like, so. But generally, I think the food was terrible. But we like, no matter what. Most of the ships I ever worked on, the food was generally terrible, to be honest.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm with John too. I rarely missed breakfast, but that's because I always stayed up and drank until breakfast. There was always a poker game or something. Lunch, never really had it. If I did have lunch, it was out on the island or something like that. Breakfast or dinner was usually slop, really. But we did have Johnny Rockets. We did have Portofino's, which was really good, and we did have pizza. So, but yeah, bringing in pot noodles into the cabin and cheese slices, and you're trying to make stuff to snack on while you're working. That's the wardrobe was full of fun stuff.
But do you remember like how many times you'd set up like the smoke alarm because you're cooking and the smoke alarm, and then you get a phone call from the bridge and they'd be like, "Is it? No, I just got out of the shower. I left the door open. That's why the steam set off." And you're cooking eggs.
always. Yep.
No, I'm fine. Just don't come down. I'm fine. Yeah. And you're there cooking all this.
There's a piece of toast stuck in the toaster, and you're trying to fan it up.
Corte snuck back food, yeah. What do we have? There was instant noodles, and I think they were selling that in the staff bar. So I think it was like $1. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I'd stock up on that too, just because it would be the only thing that I could eat. It was the fish. It was always like some fish, because they had like all of everything kind of split out, but there was like some fish, and I never knew what the fish was. And I think someone said like halibut one week, and I just thought like for 6 months it was halibut because it just changed colors and it was different textures and it was so gross. And the rice.
There's no way that was halibut. There's no way that was halibut.
Well, I know. I only know like one fish, and it's salmon, right? Or tuna. Like the stuff that you get here is like, I'm not a foodie, so it was so tough for me to just eat. And the rice, like, man, I just wanted like white rice, and it was just different colors all the time, and I just couldn't eat anything. So it was so bad that I had to like get one of the stewards and like give him like a couple bucks, and then like there'd be a time I was like, hey, here's the New York steak that you wanted, right? And like Joe was the one that showed me, hey, this is what you can do. I learned this from this guy, and I was just like, okay, I think I could do that, and I barely survived. Yeah,
I remember on one port, like we'd port and they bring on food, and like they bring on like different things like stock up the ship or whatever. And I can't remember. Well, I'm not gonna say what ship it was and what port it was, but this stuff came on, and what it said on the side was, "Do not feed to passengers." I had no idea what it was, but they were feeding obviously the crew, and I'm like, what the hell are we eating? It was kind of like Soylent Green. There's like, there's people, you know what I mean? There's like, do not feed the passengers. I was like, oh my god, what are we eating?
That's so
all
funny.
the fish from the wake of the ship. That's what you're eating.
It was just like, what the hell, man? It's just crazy.
Hey, Michael, thanks for joining.
Hey, Mike.
I'll see you soon. Well, in a few months, I guess.
Oh, go live.
Yep. Man, the unsplit shifts, we ate in the Windjammer, not bad food. Otherwise, I ate in the officer's mess, couldn't handle the crew mess. Yeah, go ahead, John.
And that was the thing about the ships I kind of disliked, really, because it was so like hierarchical. Do you know what I mean? Like there was like the officers, and they would do anything, or they would do very little, whatever, and they would have preferential treatment. And there was like the staff, and we had a little bit more privileges, and the food was a little bit better. And then it was like the crew, and literally they would treat them like shits and abuse them and whatever. I mean, I remember working on one ship, and they paid the crew $50 a month until they paid off their flight from flying out from like the Philippines or whatever it was. And their food was like literally just like, rice and this mystery meat in some sauce, and I was like, oh my god. But they made tips, so they made money and they could send home, and there's a lot of like great things about the ships that we had at the time during the time, but there was a lot of like terrible things that we saw. I'm like, oh my god, how they treated people and was, I don't know, not always that great.
Yeah. But you know what? Going back to Jay's question too, and yours too. Yeah, you see that with the crew, the crew mess that was the food was horrible, and they worked, I don't know, 21 hours a day. It was kind of a double whammy for them. But going back to Jay's, it's a whole underground economy there. You have to know people in every area, because you can get somebody to do your laundry, you get somebody to bring you food at night, you get somebody to bring you alcohol. Like there's a whole underground economy on the ships that nobody that hasn't worked there it doesn't really know about.
Like that was definitely hard for me. I ate like a teenager, honestly, because it was just like cereal boxes, underneath the cabinets. It was like dollar instant noodles, and it was just going off whenever we were like off port. And it was hard too, right? Because like if you're doing Central America or South America, it's like I just want like a burger or something, and it's not always easy to find that when you're on like one of these ports. Because for me, I was like, oh, there's some places where it's just like, okay, I don't eat any of this stuff, and this is new. This is different. I just really wanted like a burger. So hard. That for me, it was just super tough to kind of get through that. But yeah. Well, okay, guys. That was really cool. We're an hour and 21 in already. Just talking about a couple of things. John, you have any stories there? Did you want
okay. Here's a story. This isn't mine. Like the last one wasn't mine. About the guy I work with they lost the grandma. That wasn't mine. I just thought that was funny. I thought you guys had known, but I guess I hadn't told him. This is a story that was told to me. This was like a legend guy. I worked on a daily ship a long time ago out of San Diego. We did San Diego to Ensenada in Mexico, and I worked with this guy called Joe, who was like a legend in casinos. He was older than I was, and he'd done some amazing things. And he once worked in an illegal casino in Amsterdam, which that was another thing that happened back in the day. There was like illegal casinos in Amsterdam, usually owned by criminals. He ended up getting to know the guy who owned this illegal casino really well. And the casino was above kind of like a sex shop, whatever, like a brothel, whatever. And so the guy, my friend Joe, he would talk to the owner, and he's like, you know what? He's making tons of money. He was the casino manager. He goes, I want to impress, Dutch girls. Can you teach me Dutch? So he's like, okay. So he started learning Dutch off the owner of this casino, and he was all going well. And so he's like, okay. Joe turned around to me. He's like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to ask out a girl in Dutch. Can I think of, I got tons of money. Maybe I'll offer to fly her somewhere. I'm going to impress her. So he walks up to her, he starts talking to her in Dutch, and this is a white guy from North England, and she turns around to him, she said, why are you speaking Dutch in an Arab accent? The guy was from Turkey. The same guy, Joe, when in this casino that he worked, he said he was illegal, and a lot of these, like Dutch is very, in Holland is very kind of like, they're kind of a mellow place. And he said at the time, if in this casino, they knew it was running, they didn't care, it was, as long as there's no trouble in there. And he said, if somebody was going to die, by shot, whatever, they had to move the body out of the casino and just dump it somewhere, like on a bridge, one of the bridges outside, right? So if there was, if anything, fights or something happened in the casino, he said you could always tell what happened. If it was a gunfight, people would run away from the fights in the casino. But if it was a night fight, people would run and just want to watch, right? Just natural curiosity. And he said one night, one of the dealers got stabbed in the casino. And so he goes up to him, and it was all widely known amongst the staff, like, if they thought they were going to die, they had to take him outside because they didn't want him to die in the casino, right? So this guy gets stabbed, and he's there, and Joe who was a really compassionate guy. He said, okay, we should go outside to give you some breath of fresh air. Maybe that you'll feel better. And the dealer is like, you think I'm going to die? You think I'm going to die? He's like, no. So he didn't want to go outside because he's going to die. Joe's like, no, I just wanted to go outside. So some fresh air. He's like, I don't want to go. You think I'm going to die? So they were arguing on the floor. And he was eventually like, no, come on. I'll take you outside. We'll get you to an ambulance. We'll take you to the hospital. But the guy's like, I don't want to go outside. I don't leave me on the bridge. Yeah, so it was just like, it was like, oh my God, what a crazy place there. You know what I mean? Like, you could get stabbed, and the whole thing was like, oh yeah. So
Oh, don't go outside.
Mike, did you ever hear about anybody like that getting well, not anybody, but did you ever hear about any of like the crew getting like assaulted?
Yeah, there was a few. There was a group of I want to say, I think it was food staff or something, and it was in St. Petersburg. They were robbed. In there, they went to take a taxi, and what they took was not a taxi, and they were robbed at gunpoint. A couple robberies in the Caribbean. I think the Bahamas, but nothing too severe. No deaths or anything like that.
Yeah. So for you guys, what was a really scary port? Like for me, we went to Peru. So in our South America run, like we ended up going to Miraflores, which was beautiful, amazing. But when we were on port and driving to the outdoor mall that was there in Peru, all you could see on the streets were groups of guys walking. So we're like in, this bus, and like we're just passing by, and they're all looking in and they're waving, saying hi. They told us not to wear any jewelry. There was someone that actually got his necklace pulled while he was walking. So they just came up and just ripped it off. So it was, like South America for me is kind of scary. Brazil, like, being in Rio, obviously. We went to Corcovado, which was okay, but it was like three guys. So it wasn't that bad, right? But a lot of other people were having troubles, especially at that time, because this was like 9/11 time. So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of unrest, and it was insane. But for you guys, what was the not so friendly port?
John, you want to take it away?
I have a long story about St. Petersburg, but that we've already been here for like an hour and 20, so maybe that's for another time. But Jay knows that one. It's a crazy story. I think a lot of them. I remember one time when we were in Europe. I was on one ship, and they found out there was a criminal, actually crew member, that was created these kind of like offenses off the ship, and would get back on the ship. And I can't remember what it was. We were in somewhere like Scandinavia, and the police came on and were trying to find somebody because they identified this guy had got off the ship and committed all these crimes, and they were kind of like nasty crimes too, right? Like sexually, like offenses, right, off the ship, and he was getting back on, and the ship was driving away. And they came, and they were like, they identified, okay, these are happening in these ports. Well, what happens in these ports? Well, this ship was coming, and they came on a ship and looked for the guy on the ship. It was weird. We had like a boat drill when we couldn't have a boat drill. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody out on deck, and we're like, this is weird. Why are we all going out? So we all had to stand on deck, and then these, like, the local police came on, and they were looking. They had like a photo fit of this guy, and they were walking along and trying to see who this person was. And I think they caught him. I never really found out what they actually did, but it was apparently some nasty crimes, and they took him off and did it. But I think a lot of, like, someone said like Nassau at night was kind of scary and creepy. I mean, I went to some weird and wonderful things there, but that was kind of crazy. But I think, to be honest, a lot of those places, they're just as dangerous as Edmonton too, right? I mean, like, you think downtown Edmonton can be scary too, right? I mean, I worked out of San Diego for a long time, and in the daytime it was great. At nighttime it was scary, and all the creatures of the night came out. So a lot of them, that all depends, right? It's like certain areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with John. I think maybe St. Petersburg was the one that was not so friendly, and that's by a large stretch, because I think, or by a small stretch actually, because it had a lot to do with the fact that nobody spoke English anywhere you went, right? And you didn't really know where you're going. It was a lot bigger than all the other ports that we'd been to before, so it just felt a little, maybe a little more tepid and going out and going off the beaten path. Whereas if you're in London, if you're in Edinburgh, or if you're in Ireland, you can walk around a little bit and feel a little more comfortable. So maybe St. Petersburg, but hey, there were some dicey situations in the Bahamas too. I think even Cozumel. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's weird. So, well, I guess it's everywhere that you go. I mean, like for me, South America was just super scary, but it's weird because like there's Rio, and then there's Buenos Aires, and then when we were in Buenos Aires, it felt like a city in the States. Like it just felt so different. Like there was like, there's a downtown area. There's like a lot of roads, and we did so much when we were there. But then you go to like Brazil, and it's just like it's the same continent. You go around to the other side, and it was just so different. It was like night and day. So yeah, it was crazy. But Selena is saying Panama, Ocho Rios, right? I never got to go there. There was a hurricane.
Ocho Rios, good call.
Yeah. So how was Ocho Rios to you, Mike? Because I never got to go. We had a hurricane, so we ended up doing Puerto Rico. We did the other side. So.
I don't know if I could say it was dangerous, but there was a lot of panhandlers. You had a lot of people following you. There's a lot of kids, and so they're always asking for money, buy this, do this. So there's a lot of people, and they'd follow you all the way from the ship, all the way down to, you wanted to get into Margaritaville or go down to the falls. That's about it. Because I mean, if you go off there, you just kind of get hounded for stuff. I'm not sure about danger, but it was kind of a nuisance, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to Ocho Rios. We went to this was like a long time ago, and it's the same thing. I went a couple of times, and they're always trying to to Mikey's point. There's like there's the beggars, and then they try and sell you drugs, and they would try and braid your hair. I'm like, I have no hair. What are you gonna do? I mean, I lost my hair in '97. I was like, what are you gonna braid? Do you know what I mean? Like, no. And I remember like a group of us. There was about the casino I worked on. I think there was about 15 of us in the casino, 15 dealers in the casino, and we're like, hey, let's go to the Bob Marley's grave. And so like, okay, so I think it was like 12 of us got off, and it was like literally me, my friend, 2 guys, and like the rest were like 10 girls. And we got into like this minivan, whatever. I think we'd arranged the night before, like the weekend before, to say, hey, we want to go to Bob Marley's grave. And literally, we all thought it was going to be, we're all ignorant. We all thought it was just going to be like a cemetery, here's a headstone, whatever. And then we say, okay, this is pictures, and then we go home. And we never realized when we got there, it's like this compound in the middle of nowhere. And then you have to kind of sign in, and all these crazy people come out, and yeah, that was kind of scary. When somebody tried to steal the bus while we were in it, that was odd. Yeah, and while we were there, so we went and we had this tour, and they were like, "Hey, would you like some tea?" But all British were like, "Yeah, we like tea," and so we're all drinking this really sweet like green tea, and we're all like, "Hey, hang on, man, kind of stoned." And yeah, so we were making weed, and this guy's singing in Jamaican accent. We can't understand him, and he's singing Bob Marley songs. And we're like, "What the heck is going on?" We're all singing different songs. We have no idea what's going on. Yeah, and then someone tried to steal the bus that we were in, and he literally took it away. And the guy was trying to chase up, and he pulled the guy out. And because we all had this tea, we all thought it was hilarious. Like, what is going on? We were like, "This is the craziest thing!" Like, this is so much fun, And then we we're like, okay, we got, we looked at the time, we're like, okay, we got to get back to the ship. So we're like, you got to go really fast. So I don't know, anybody, being in the Caribbean, they drive like crazy. And I'm like, oh, they just beat the horn and just go, yeah, it doesn't matter. We have brakes, and they just go crazy. We almost hit a cow. I thought I was going to die by hitting a cow on a road in Jamaica. And then we get back to the ship, almost missed it. We get back in, we're like, okay, go. And we all have to go, get changed, and then go to work. And like I said, 12 out of the 15 staff had no idea what was going on, and that's the deal. We're like, you could see them all like that. It was not even like they weren't even trying to fake it. We're like, I don't know what's going on. You know, like it was just. Oh man, it was yeah. So I think Jamaica can be kind of crazy.
Oh wow. Yeah, I never got to go. That's crazy. That's insane. Okay, so wow, like we're 135 here, and we still didn't go through your question, John. So maybe we can close with this one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so knowing what you know, because now we're older, right? I mean, like we all have kids, and my kids are older and stuff like that. Would you recommend working in casinos for your kids, or would you say, no, go and do something else?
No, I got a daughter. No way, not a chance. No, but honestly, it is like for all of us, it is a good job. It was a good job. It took us, all three of us, all over the world, and many other people that are watching now, all over the world. So it does open up opportunities, and you meet a lot of interesting people. So I guess if she want, I don't think I'd steer her in that direction, but if she'd want to when she's older, then I think I'd be supportive. I'd send her to Uncle Jay's so she can get some dice training, I think. So,
Yeah, well, I'm not a trainer anymore. I'm a mentor, but yeah, no, it would be cool to teach the old ways to. I don't want to say to our kids. It's hard. Oh man, for me, I think it's difficult just because I don't know what the state of casinos is going to be. I mean, John, like you have an older child. Mike, you're kind of in the middle. I have the youngest one. My baby is like 5, so in 10 years you're gonna have to ask me because I have no idea what the casinos are gonna look like. So it's been so different from like when we started to how it is now. So I don't want to answer that question. It's so hard to answer.
like right now, like my daughter is going to be 18 in what we know October. So like 3 months. So my daughter could start working in a casino in 3 months, right? Which is terrifying, to be honest. She's going to be 18, but I think it's not as fun as it was when I used to do it, and then when you guys used to do it, and when I came to Edmonton. There's not like the social aspect of it. I mean, because I think the most fun we all had was like, okay, yeah, this is all fun, the games and all that kind of stuff was so cool, but it was like the after work stuff, like maybe going to like BP's after work or going to the see, but now there's not that opportunity, like you work till 3 o'clock in the morning, then you have to go home, or there's some late night poker, whatever. There's not the social aspect anymore, or the opportunities to have that social aspect anymore. So I just don't think it's as much fun for people coming in as what it used to be like years ago, right? And I'm not saying I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's just something that's as much fun as, because my daughter's heard all the stories from myself and my wife and stuff like that. I just don't think it's right now. If she went into it thinking, oh, casinos are going to be like this, it wouldn't be. It's not the same anymore, right? I mean, obviously things evolve, but I just don't think there's the same. Unless, to be honest, people are smart. They go, okay, we can't go to this place after work because the bars are closed. We're just going to go to someone's house. There's going to be house parties and things like that. So maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad place to work, especially if you're a young student and want to work part-time hours. There's a lot of stuff, and you can make decent money. So I can't say no. I don't know if you really want to make it a career, but at the same time, I don't know if you want to make it a career now. I should say, right, with the way it is. But as a student, somebody young, yeah, you can make some good money and go to school too.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Mike. I think as a student, a part-time job, I think that's where the casino kind of in Edmonton anyway. I think that's where it is. I think if it's a part-time thing, part-time gig, like, oh, I'm doing this just for some money and some, to meet some cool and fun people, because there are. I mean, like that's why in all honesty, that's why we're still talking. That's why still people are watching this, because there's some fun and cool people that in the industry. I'd still recommend, yeah, if you're a student, go and do this. I mean, you can have some laugh, meet some cool people. Maybe, you know, if you want to do, or you wanted to get an opportunity to leave and go somewhere else, maybe that's out there. But I'm just not sure if it's something I would recommend like any of my kids to do as a career.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, we can go so many directions with this, but oh man, when I started, you know, minimum wage was what, $6, $6 at the close to $6,
Mhm.
and that was our base, and we would make that, and we would make tips. So it was always an advantage over somebody that would just be working, you know, a retail job or some kind of like food services job, or like when I worked, I had two jobs. I worked at the casino there in the mall, and I worked at Reds. And Reds was a bowling alley, billiards club, and I was making half as much as I was at the casino. So what I loved about all of these jobs was that you get to work with your hands. So like with Reds, you know, I got free bowling, I got free billiards. That's why I loved it, right? Because I get to play games. I love the casino too because I was like dealing games, and it was the chips, it was the dexterity, it was the cards. I mean, I really love the game itself. Like, and especially when craps came in, that made it so much better because you were doing this with people, you know, and that's the interaction. So like John, when you say it's about the people, I mean, I agree. Like, that's something that I definitely miss. And that's why I love dealing Paigao tiles. That was my first core game because there was someone there that you could talk to. It wasn't just you by yourself on a blackjack table. You weren't dealing like Caribbean stud or stuck on sick bow by yourself, just standing there, right? That's why I love Paigao tiles, craps. That's why I loved roulette because there was someone there. You had a partner, and that's what made it made it so good. And I loved like watching good dealers, right? And I think that's kind of why, like, I want to ask you guys, why did you stay for so long? You know, we say it's not a good career move. I understand, like, I can see the reason why it balances itself out, but why did you stay for so long? What was it that made you stay and not maybe pursue something else? Like, I know both of you, you say why you got out, but what made you stay for that period of time?
Mike, you go first.
Okay, you know what? It obviously the familiarity of being in the casino helped. Uh, it was fun, you know. I mean, for a long time it was fun, and then it wasn't. It's kind of like, yeah, the corporations took over, and we had you know, people from Vegas come in and tell us how to smile and how to look and how to dress, and you know, it just started getting more corporate, and that's when that's when I think that was enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm kind of the same as Mikey, man. I did it for such a long time. I had no responsibilities for like the longest time, right? I mean, my kids, like, I got married later on in life, and I got kids later on in life. So I'd be like, yep, I'm done here. I'll find someone else. And it was just the freedom and to be able to go like, yep, I'm gonna go there, and just to travel and to go, yep. It was so refreshing to be able to go, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'd leave, like, literally sometimes I'd leave during the shift. And then I'd phone up agencies and go, okay, all right, do you want to start next week? I'm like, okay, and I'll go and work somewhere else. And just that's the fluidity of being able to just go wherever I wanted to. It was really kind of freeing, right? I mean, like, I wasn't held, and literally I could travel with, like, you know, a backpack and a suitcase, and I was just like, hey, go whatever, right? And it was so cool, and I got to meet some really fun and interesting people, and I like that. And it was kind of like I was literally like the littlest hobo. I would travel anywhere. And then, you know, and that's what I enjoyed. And everywhere I went, I learned a little bit more, and I just met interesting people. And I think that was what kept me in it for the longest time. It's like, okay, and to be honest, I just because of my attitude and I knew it a long time ago. I was never going to be like way up in the echelons of like the career business, you know, like a games manager or whatever, because I was just too crazy, to be honest. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just enjoy this ride as long as it lasted. So I just enjoyed it. I traveled and I did a lot of fun, and I just enjoyed it as much as I can. And then going back to Mike's point, it got to a point where it started to get, less and less enjoyable. And then I was like, okay, well, I just don't want. I mean, especially when I had kids, and I was like, well, you know what? I want to spend less time going out partying and more time with my kids. So that's when it kind of petered out, right? But there was so many pretty, like, cool things that I did, right, and people that I met and stuff like that. So that's why I stayed in it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So back to your question, knowing what you know now, would you recommend working in casinos for your kids? If my son ended up working in the casino, I would want him to go on the ships and meet people from around the world. And I think that would be the ultimate goal. I don't know if I would want him to just stay as a dealer and have it as a career for an extended amount of time. However, there is like the benefits of this job in the casino. It's not smoking anymore. Well, for the most part, the casinos aren't smoking anymore, so it's a different environment. The other thing is, I think the stress level is a lot lower as a dealer than doing something that's very intense. So, like, there was a group of people that went to air traffic control, and to go from like this level of stress to that level of stress, I mean, that's not everyone can kind of handle that. So, do you have like a longevity in the casino industry? If you know that you have breaks every hour, if you know that you're going to be sitting at dead tables and not really doing anything high, high impact or anything that kind of puts a lot of stress on your body, I think that's kind of what extends it. And maybe it's like easy for the body. Maybe it's easier for people. Maybe it's something more manageable than, maybe being out in like construction or doing something that's very intense, right? So, yeah, if I knew my son was going on the ships, then I would say for sure, right? It's an adventure. And for me, like the ships is amazing. I would never take that back. I don't think I'll ever go to Hawaii again, So, yeah.
Well, I think, like, the biggest opportunity the casinos ever gave to me and to all of us was the opportunity to travel. Whether or not we took it or not is irrelevant, to be honest. But it gave us the opportunity. If my kids ever go into casinos, I don't know, maybe they will, maybe they don't, who knows. But I would like them, whatever avenue they go to have the opportunity to travel and work. Not just travel and have vacations, because we all know it's totally different, right? When you go and you travel, you see a different perspective of places. When you go to the off-beaten tracks, we're like, oh, I don't want to go there, all the tourists go. I'll see them some cool places, right? So I think that gave us, for a lot of people that I knew of, very few people with, secondary, like post-secondary education, work in casinos, right? These are people who've traveled all over the world, done amazing things, seen amazing things, and 99% of them probably don't have a degree, right? Which is what industry offers you that, right? Which it's so that there was, and hopefully still is, that opportunity to travel. But I think, if my kids ever got into it, that's something I would recommend them to do, right? Just, hey, go out and see the world. Go work somewhere, see something. You broaden your horizons. You create a different perspective on life, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well said, Mike. So Selena says the people I worked with and the flexibility. I think that's something that makes you stay in the industry for a long period of time. I think that's a really big thing. The fact that, well, I mean, like we've talked about this before about, if you have kids and both of you are in the industry, are you able to kind of manage that and split your time? And, if for the most part, the casinos are very flexible with that and understanding. So I definitely appreciate that part of the industry. So I think the only thing that really bothers me is just, I think that the salary is still not where it should be. And it's hard, like, for people not in the industry to kind of understand that because, Johnny, like you said, it's just about not having a degree or whatnot. But, there's a level of skill to it. And I don't know, I think we need to get to I think this industry needs to garner a little more respect, and it's going to take some time. Like, it's not how it was in the 60s or 70s, and I think it's gotten better and better, but to be established, I mean, it's still going to take some time to get there. So
the biggest challenge, I think, I would just say in Edmonton or Alberta, is the churn of staff. They're not paid enough to stay. There's not enough positions to be promoted up. So do you know what I mean? So the challenge is, like, how do you keep somebody in there to be, okay, all right, I'm a dealer, and how am I going to stay there? And this is a profession that you want to stay in, right? And that's the challenge. There's so many, they used to call it like a brain drain. Like, I remember when I first started in the Palace, and it was like, hey, so many people left and went on the ships. I mean, God, there must have been like a 1,000 years worth of experience left during the 5 years I was there. Do you know what I mean? Like, just going to either like Ontario or on the ships, stuff like that. I mean, like, those kind of experienced dealers you can't readily replace, right? From just going like, hey, don't worry, we'll just get somebody from K Days, right? So how do you keep the people in there? And it has to be more money, right? To be honest, I think it's a radical thought. I think stop accepting tips. Just pay me more money, keep all the tips. I don't care what it was. You could figure it all out. Pay this guy $25 an hour. He's worth that as a dealer. Make him a living wage as a dealer. And if he's not very good, then find somebody else. There's going to be somebody else who walk in your door who deserves to be paid $25 an hour. And with the, and even, I mean, there's no law saying you have to accept tips, right? What if you turn around, UJ, and you had okay, I'm going to this casino, no tipping. Nobody accepts the tips, but guess what? These are the best dealers in Edmonton. And you're like, oh my God, what? Yeah, there's no tips, but we're going to pay you $25 an hour, $30 an hour, but you're going to generate more money because you can now pick and choose the best dealers in Edmonton or even Alberta, right? I mean, it'd be crazy, right? So I know somebody at some point needs to lift the benchmark of what the minimum standard should be, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point.
The only difficulty is that you're in a charitable gaming environment, so we're not, and it's not 24 hours. So, I mean, it's hard. I think the only people that would ever argue that point, John, would be the poker dealers, given the fact that you would have to pay a lot more than, $25 an hour, $30 an hour in order for it to be beneficial to someone that can deal late night and make a good amount of money, whatever that amount of money is. So it's very, I don't want to say comparable, but potential. Yeah.
Like, to be honest, like, I know we've been going on for almost 2 hours. Like, how much revenue does the casino make from like late night poker? Like, is it like it's a radical thought, right? I mean, like, are they making enough money to justify having that casino open for late night poker? Mm-hmm. Is it who's benefiting the most? Is it the casino? Is it the poker players? Sorry, the poker dealers? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was an operator and like look at it and go, well, are we making as much? I mean, do we need this? Like, have it.
Wow, I see, John, but that makes it so tough now because it's just like we have this as variety, or we're trying to be competitive as a casino. Is this again, like, now we can talk, because prior when we talked about our previous podcast, it's like, do we really need craps, or as myself as an operator, should I just have 3 blackjack tables staffed because I have a feeling that's going to generate more in the long run? Or do I just have baccarat tables because that's where my high limit players want to be? And so, I mean, it's so hard to kind of say what we should have in the casino, what we shouldn't have, right? So I totally, we can go so many directions with that, because now the question with poker, there's so many questions like, should I have tournaments? Does that actually help me as an operator? Like, do we get a lot of residual play after? Like, if someone gets knocked out in a poker tournament, are they actually playing a cash game, or are they just leaving? Are they just here for the tournament? And if they get knocked out, they go? Because that's not a lot of money for me as an operator. So is it worth it?
But and I know we've been talking for hours, but I mean, at some point, I think, like we've talked earlier and said, like, there are too many casinos are trying to do the same thing. Why, and we're saying like the skill level, like at some point, I think, in all honesty, it's like it's like we've got a food court. Every casino is like a food court. They're all trying to do the same kind of thing. But at some point, you're like, you know what? I want to have a really good steak. I'm going to go to, say, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's more money, but it's great. The experience is great. It's this. At some point, casinos in Edmonton or Alberta will go, you know what? Maybe we can go, we'll just shut it down. Maybe we don't need whatever. And we're going to cater to this kind of clientele. Maybe it's poker. Maybe this group of people. I don't know. Then each different place will have a different experience, right? I mean, I think then you'd have a competition for that skill set of dealers, right? So maybe there's only one casino in Edmonton that has craps, but man, the best craps dealers you'd ever seen, right? Or maybe there's only one casino with poker dealers, but man, they're the best poker dealers. Because the other ones, they don't want to cater to that. They just want high limit baccarat playlists or whatever. I think right now, I think too many casinos are trying to be jack of all trades, and then rather trying to be like, why can't they be specialized in the ultimate one thing or a couple of things? You know what I mean? Who knows?
Well, okay, and now that just ties in with Mike's point now with the fact that there's oversaturation. Why if I had two properties in one city, why wouldn't I just combine them in one super property? At some point, combine them into one. Because if I have two amazing poker rooms at two sites, I mean, like, am I cannibalizing myself? With the action, if it's oversaturated, I'm taking from my own, from my own sister casino, and it's like, does that really benefit? I don't know, right? If you have like that market, why couldn't you just have one really big combination? And I think that resolves a lot of like staff issues as well. If you're short staffed, I mean, there you go. You have your whole unit there. There's consistency. There's no issues with like that. I think you trying to take this one section of the city, like the north end or the west end. I mean, I don't think it's effective. Again, this is my own opinion, but I think with saturation, I think when we had 3 casinos, it was amazing, and to have the like double now after like 20 years, I don't know how it benefits everyone, especially if you can't get the stuff that you want, right? So we've kind of spread out, and I'm one of, like I said, I'm one of what, 3 or 4 all games dealers in one casino. Like, that shouldn't be happening, I don't think.
And as like to me, like when I went back to like earlier on when I told you about the story with the casino I worked in London with the island and the misplaced toys. They had, I mean, this was all in London. They had different casinos catering to different clientele. Whereas, and they took out, in all honesty, they took out all the pretty girls that deal to the, these, high limits, guys basically. And we don't have that in Edmonton. We don't have like, okay, you have a high limit room. Why couldn't you have a high limit casino where everybody in there was, the minimum is this, so you cater to this group of people. Like, can you imagine, okay, the casino downtown where, okay, there's no parking. There's no worries. We'll come and pick you up. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'll pick you up in a limo. You drive you there. You do whatever. We fly you in. We put you in a hotel. Don't worry about it. You haven't got to drive. You eliminate the problem of the parking because you either pick them up or you fly them in, right? So trying to cater to everybody, I don't know. It just seems a weird concept to me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's a big discussion. We can go a lot of different directions, eh?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's nice to kind of talk about this and discuss it. I mean, we're not just like, we're not the old senior citizens that are sitting at like a table at the McDonald's and we've kind of gone through our careers and everything. Like, it's, we've done a lot, like, combined, and we've kind of seen like how it is. There's a lot of people that haven't seen like what you've seen, John. So, to have a channel like this and kind of discuss it, it's just really good to kind of share this information. I'm not saying that anything is going to be done about, but like, it's our own opinions, but it's nice to kind of put it out there and be like, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the whole point is to make it better, right? So, yeah, John, you were going to say?
No, because like realistically, it's kind of like, you remember when like bars used to have like different nights, like theme nights?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this, and it would cater to different people, different nights, right? And I think at some point maybe casinos or some, but the challenge is it's a brave, bold move, right? To do, okay, we're going to all of a sudden go, okay, we're going to get rid of all these low limit tables, and all we're going to do is like $25 minimum. We're just going to revamp the whole thing. It's a big gamble, right? And and people jobs could be based on that, right? I mean, you could get lost and you do your job, and so it's a challenge, right? So at some point, somebody's going to jump off, and in all honesty, it's like all of us, like us three, and some of the other people on this, that have watched this over the years, over the week, but over the weeks, where we've all left the casino, right? You guys were, had done it for a long time. You were in really good positions, and then you just jumped off to, took a leap of faith and did something new, right? It's a scary experience, right? And at some point, I think the casinos are going to have to do that too, if they want to be competitive, right? And go, we have to reinvent the wheel, right? We can't keep doing the same thing and think it's going to get better. Like earlier on, Loretta said, "Oh, it's dead on a Wednesday." Why is it dead on a Wednesday? Well, it's always dead on Wednesday because everybody's competing for the Wednesday kind of crowd, right? So,
Yeah. Holy smokes. Okay, well, we did 2 hours. Again. Oh wow! I'm sure we could talk like another hour, but let's not because we can continue this next week. I think next week we'll kind of summarize what we talked about. But I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions on this, so it's really great to have both of you on and kind of share this. I really like talking about the ships too because it's nice hearing your stories and just kind of your experience as well. So. Is there anything, guys, you wanted to say before we end this live stream? And
well, guys, thanks for being on. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun to be on. And I just have one thing for Selena and anybody else who thinks they're challenging for the Wilo Bowl belt. Nope, it's mine, and it's staying with me.
John, anything you want to share with your fans before we call it a night?
No, this is always fun. I like coming on and chat with you guys. It's great, and I just want to let you know. I probably haven't told you that. Huge respect for you and Mikey for and anybody else who've taken that leap of faith to kind of like leave the casinos, because the longer we all know, the longer we do it, the harder it is to get out. And once you do it, it's really kind of a difficult process, right? So I just want to say I have a huge amount of respect for you and Mike and everybody else who have actually done it.
You too. You fall in that boat too, right? So
I agree. But still, I don't even know if that was the right call. And sometimes it's tough, right? Because I have a lot of love for the industry, and should I try to bring back the art of it? And that's kind of why I created this channel. I wanted someone like John to talk to somebody that I'm working with right now. And I want that person to kind of absorb the knowledge and the experience and be like, hey, I want to go on the ships. Because there's nobody telling them, hey, you know what? When I worked on the ships, this was amazing. Right? Like, it's not like how it was before where a lot of people would come in. It's like, man, when I was like in Sarnia, we ended up doing this. It was so much fun. I met this person. Like, we don't have that anymore. It's just so you come into work and it's like, here's your duties. There isn't really that kind of camaraderie where, when we started, Mike, it was a whole group of people. Mm-hmm. They wanted to learn how to drop cut. They wanted to learn the presses. They wanted to learn how to push 300 chips. It's so different now. It's just, I just want to come in and I just want to make my wage and tips and go, right? So,
yeah.
I'm not saying that for everybody. I mean, but still, I haven't. Before we end, I just want to say, like, we went, like, I think I turned like 19, I think a couple months after we were doing our training. We ended up going to like Casino ABS downtown, and I went in there, and I swear to God, like, I saw the baccarat dealers, and there's like a couple girls, I think they were sisters or twins. They were dealing. It was amazing, and to see hands like that, I was just like, holy crap, this is so cool. I didn't know you could deal baccarat like that. Then I go and watch roulette, and then there would be someone like mucking, and I'd just be like, what? You can do that on that game? And it just made me have this appreciation for what I was doing. And I come in now, and it's so different. It's 20 years later, and I walk in, and it's like, I don't see that. I don't see anybody that's just like, wow, I'm blown away. Like, not even like a fraction to like when John was dealing, him on stick was just memorable, and it was just like, okay, look at this. The banter is there. There's a rhythm, and it's amazing. The pace is crazy. You know, it was so much fun, and it's just not like that, and not even like the effort to get there, right? So, yeah.
I don't want to drag this on even longer, but I think that's the major problem in the whole, because the fact is there's no appetite to get better, right? There's no the competitive, like you guys were awesome when I first walked in, and like not just you two, there was like the whole group of you, and there was that kind of the drive to get better, to be, you know, to look and go, oh, I want to be as good as that. I don't know why it's all of a sudden just evaporated, but that's I think is the biggest challenge to overcome, and it's shown from, like, because you know we've all played in casinos all over the world, and to go in and go, man, this guy is crap, or this girl is crap, this is a lousy, awful experience. That's one of the reasons some of the, you know, some of these casinos are empty, because it's no fun to play.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for being on. Thanks, John. Totally. I love this segment. I'm glad that we do this weekly. It doesn't matter if we have like 10 or 100 people on it. I just still like this. This is great. You know, it's good to actually talk about this to somebody. And it's been frustrating me. Like, you know, since like pre-COVID, when I was working there, it's just been frustrating. It's just nobody that I used to work with that I could talk to about, right? So, but thank you so much. Tomorrow, Mike, good luck. Yeah, go ahead, John.
One last thing. I was just watching Dave Chappelle on a Netflix thing, and he mentioned one thing, and it reminded me of this, right? He said that he did like 26 shows, and it was all like he brought in all these comedians and blah blah blah. And he said, you know, he was just hanging around with comedians, and he was just helping his little town where he was. And he goes, he understands why cops hang around with each other. It's the same reason comedians hang around with each other, because they understand each other. And I think that's why we like to come on here, is because we're all in casinos and we understand each other.
For sure.
Right. That's the last thing we say. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, well, on that note, thank you guys so much for being on. Thank you, everybody that's been online. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope to see you next week. Prior to that, though, Mike will be defending his belt, his Jijun belt, to Selena tomorrow. So jump on in. I'm not sure what time it is. We'll do a stream alert, and then hopefully you guys can watch the action. Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a great night.
You guys have a good night. Always good chatting with you guys.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye.
See you.